Stock of Glencore rebounding somewhat Tuesday after the company reassured investors for a look at what's ahead for Glencore and the broader commodities sector. I'm joined by Angus Campbell, senior analyst at FX Pro. Good to see you again, and let me get right to that stock price. What do you make of this bounce in Glencore and what the company has told investors about its solvency?
Well, there'll be a lot of excited investors thinking this is the bottom for this particular share price. I think that there's certainly going to be one thing that is for sure, and that's that it's going to be a very volatile stock. You know, for those people who partook in the sort of new share issue that they announced not very long ago, they're going to be licking serious wounds, and it has fallen a huge amount. So it's not surprising to see one day there will be people thinking this is an absolute steal at these levels. Sort of hit 67p. This was a stock that, of course, that when it floated was at £5.30. So it's almost sort of rather like you could equate it to the internet bubble of back in 1999-2000, when many stock prices sort of fell by huge amounts and are literally just, most of these companies are sort of non-existent today. I don't think the same can be said for Glencore, because of course it still has huge amounts of assets. The longer term picture though still remains relatively uncertain, because the company does of course have a huge debt pile. Its market cap is now far below that debt pile, so it's got a lot of work to do. I think there has to be a lot of good, action taken by its management in order to restore some sort of investor, to restore some sort of investor confidence in the stock. So we may not have seen the worst of the falls over yet. Having said that, what I do expect is continued volatility in this particular stock price.
What should investors think about in terms of other commodity-based companies? Is this the exception? We have seen some downdraft of those companies, but is there more pain ahead? It doesn't look like there's any end to the fall in commodity prices.
Yes, I suppose if you're looking at the broader picture for commodity markets and commodity prices, I do tend to feel that maybe there is potentially further downside. I don't think a huge amount. But of course, they are very much tied to two main factors. One is the continually slowing economy in China and other Asian markets as well. You also have to factor in that we are nearing a Federal Reserve rate hike, and that is likely to support dollar strength. And of course, dollar strength, when that happens, you tend to see weaker commodity prices. So there's two very major headwinds that commodity prices face right now. So the broader picture doesn't look particularly bright. And if you're looking at a stock like Glencore, which of course is heavily reliant not just on China, but the price of copper and the price of coal, these are commodities that have really suffered hugely. When you combine those two together, it does not spell good news for a stock like Glencore. Other mining stocks have suffered as a result, but of course when you look specifically at those that are exposed to the metal prices that have suffered the most, they are the stocks that are going to feel the pain the most. I don't think there's much downside left, but I think we could see prices lower from here.
Does Glencore survive?
I think that Glencore does survive, because either it will survive as a public listed company, it has to do an awful lot in order to, as I said earlier, it has to do an awful lot to reassure investors. If it doesn't survive as a public company, then I think that almost certainly it could survive as a private company, and there could be ways around delisting the stock and management, getting some sort of action together to pool investors in another way to re-privatize Glencore so that it will survive for the longer term.
Angus Campbell, thanks so much. Good to see you. I'm Rhonda Schaffler for The Street.